The execution is now in progress. When it first surge entered his body, he stiffened. And
this evening, public radio stations across the country played the audio tapes of condemned prisoners being put to death in Georgia's electric chair. Never before has the recording of an execution in the United States been broadcast to a national audience.
There is no more hidden place in this country than the execution chamber. It's been completely kept from the public.
David Isay, whose company produces radio documentaries, insists the public has a legitimate interest in hearing the recordings for themselves.
This is a state-sanctioned act that is being done on behalf of the public, so the public has a right to see or hear what's being done on their behalf.
In 1983, 7 years after the Supreme Court dropped its ban on the death penalty, the state of Georgia resumed executions by electric chair. The prison system made audio recordings so it could document exactly what procedures were followed. Indeed, the tapes depict a prison staff focused almost entirely on the mechanics of execution, keenly intent on going by the book as they attend to all the ritual tasks of putting men to death in the electric chair.
This is a recording of the execution of Ivan Ray Stanley, EF 103603, July the 12th, 1984.
Ivan Ray Stanley had been convicted in the 1976 robbery and murder of an insurance agent. Like all executions in Georgia, Stanley's was conducted at this state prison in Jackson. The clanging sounds you hear are cell doors banging throughout the building.
Witnesses are now entering the witness room.
The narrator is prison official Willis Marable, who looks out at the electric chair through a one-way mirror. He is on the telephone, providing a graphic play-by-play to Attorney General Mike Bowers, who is an hour away in Atlanta.
All the procedures, I think, in terms of objective, are done to try to carry it out in an orderly and dignified manner. Now, that may sound like strange terms, but this is very, very solemn business.
At this time, the news media witnesses are entering.
One of those media witnesses was Associated Press reporter Dick Pettis.
They're very efficient. They know exactly what they're doing. They very quickly strap the person into the chair, and then they follow the prescribed protocol, which I think makes it easier for everyone to stay on script. It's clinical.
The execution team is now in the process of escorting the condemned into the execution chamber. He is walking unassisted, walked straight to the chair, and is seated himself in it. One of the execution team members is now in the process of securing the back strap. The other members are in the process of securing the arm straps and leg straps.
Once the straps are secure, Ivan Stanley is asked if he has any last words.
He has declined to make a last statement.
Are you ready to tell him?
He has afforded the opportunity for prayer. He declined this also. The warden is now in the process of reading the essential court order to the witnesses and to the condemned.
Court has present the defendant Ivan Ray Stanley on the 15th day of January 1977.
The condemned has offered no resistance throughout. He's just sitting there very passively, not moving. The leg band has been secured to the condemned's right leg, and also the headset has been secured to his head. Perspiration is now being wiped from the forehead of the condemned. The warden and all execution team members have departed the execution chamber. Stand by for the warden's last telephone check.
The warden, Ralph Kemp, is on the phone to the Deputy Commissioner of Corrections, Dave Lowe, checking for any last-minute stay of execution.
Ralph, this is Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
There are no stays. You can proceed to carry out the official order of the court.
Very well.
On my count of 3, press your button. 1, 2, 3.
None of the 3 executioners know which button starts an automatic cycle, sending 3 separate surges of electricity through Ivan Stanley's body. 2,000 volts for 4 seconds, 1,000 volts for 7 seconds, and 208 volts for 2 minutes.
The execution is now in progress. When it first surge entered his body, He stiffened, and I heard a pop as if one of the straps broke, but I can't tell from this vantage point. He is still at this time sitting there with clenched fists with no other movement. He's slowly relaxing at this time.
You got to remember the face is covered. You don't see anything. And basically what happened, and he is so tightly strapped down, except for his fingers, that what happens is the fingers just clench the chair.
You can see his hands, the clenching of the fist. That's all you see, the only movement you typically see.
From my vantage point, it seems that the inmate has relaxed somewhat. His fists are still clenched, but there's no movement from the condemned.
After 3 jolts of electricity, the prison procedure calls for a 5-minute lapse time so the body can cool down before physicians certify the execution is completed.
We have now completed 5 minutes lapse time. Stand by for the doctors are now preparing to enter the execution chambers to check for life signs. The examination is completed. Stand by for the superintendent's time of death and confirmation of death.
Approximately 12:24, July the 12th, 1984. For execution of Ivan Ray Stanley carried.
The superintendent has advised all witnesses that death did occur at 12:24 this date.
After Ivan Stanley's body is removed, Attorney General Mike Bowers and Deputy Commissioner Lowe congratulate the warden, Ralph Kemp.
You and your staff did an excellent job. We appreciate it very much.
Okay, we had a little bit of a scare. I don't know if they related it to you or not. The popping sound.
Yeah.
We were thinking that what happened because he sat there for that 3 minutes, that the water and the sponge on his leg ran out.
Right.
Right there by his foot. And we're thinking that that's just it was like a little bolt of lightning.
Did you see anything?
No, they said Colonel Hardison and other people in the witness room said they didn't see anything like that. Now, I still feel good about it, really.
It ran too smooth, Ralph, but don't screw it up next time.
Okay.
Mike Bowers wants to say something now.
Okay.
Ralph, I second what Dave said. Very smooth job.
Okay. We appreciate it. Just get us another one.
I noted that he walked in under his own power at 12:11. The warden asked him if he had a last statement, and he twice said no. Looks like at one point he was shaking as they adjusted the arm strap on the chair at 12:15.
Veteran Associated Press reporter Dick Pettis says there is one Georgia execution he will never forget, the 1984 electrocution of Alpha Otis Stevens, convicted of murdering a man who had interrupted a burglary. Stevens entered the death chamber at the prison in Jackson just after midnight on December 12th.
The order of execution is read to him. He appeared frightened. They placed the cover over his face at 12:16.
On my count of 3, press your button. 1, 2, 3.
Once again, Warden Ralph Kemp presides over the execution while prison official Willis Marable provides a running narration. It begins precisely at 12:17 a.m.
The execution now has begun. There was one small jerk from the condemned at the time the execution was initiated.
I show that his head turned and sagged, and then it turned back. My note says that the head was twisting slowly in the chair, and that the head sank, and the electricity was turned off at about 12:19. His fists remained clenched.
I show the time is 12:19.
The execution is completed at this time. The electrical panel box is secured and locked. I do not detect any movement from the condemned at this time. He seems to have stopped moving his head and also his arms.
I show the time is 12:20.
Now the 3 jolts of electricity had been administered. and the prescribed 5-minute cool-down period had begun, what prison officials call the lapse time.
Yes, sir. We're into the first minute of the lapse time now. No movement from any of the witnesses, and at this time, no movement from the condemned.
But at this point, witnesses staring at Stevens in the electric chair notice that something is wrong.
He began to breathe, shallowly at first. And frankly, I didn't at first believe that I had seen that. But I made a note of it. Said at 12:21 he breathed. And then I saw it again and I wrote again. And on my notes it says, and again and again.
I showed the time is 12:22.
There is some slight movement. He's still moving his head slightly. The only thing we can do is continue until the physicians can check him after the lapse time has expired.
The warden orders the prison staff to wait, as the execution protocol demands.
Don't vary from your checklist.
We have completed 4 minutes of lapse time. We have 1 minute remaining. And from my vantage point, I do detect, or it seems to be, that he is breathing. We have completed the 5 minutes lapse time. Stand by for the physician's check.
Time at 12:26 and 30 seconds.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Doctors verify that he is still alive.
A second attempt to carry out the death sentence in a moment.
Enter a new era of discovery.
Really grim juncture. Nearly 10 minutes have now elapsed from the moment that the state of Georgia first attempted to execute Alpha Otis Stevens. Now officials must repeat the procedure. Once again, Nightline's Chris Bury.
Repeat the execution.
Very well.
In Atlanta, the Attorney General, Mike Bowers, had approved the decision to give Alpha Otis Stevens a second series of jolts in the electric chair.
The order of the court is to execute this person, and certainly have to do it as humanely as possible. You can't violate the Constitution, but the first time apparently left some measure of life, and a second application was made to carry out the execution.
I show the time is 12:28.
Okay, Commissioner, we'll proceed at this time.
See.
On my count of 3, you press your button. 1, 2, 3.
At that point, they proceeded to deliver another 2-minute cycle of electricity. The body moved forward. The fists remained clenched. The breathing continued, it seemed, for a time. The head, again, kind of rolled from side to side.
The equipment is switched off, secured at this time. We're now into the 5 minutes lapse time.
What is the status on condemned?
Sir, he appears to be breathing to me.
You're going to have them check those sponges and check their connections. There's something they don't have connected right, Willis, or that?
Yes, sir. You want us to go ahead and complete this whole thing and then
Yeah, complete your phase, and then you're going to have to make your check.
Show the time at 12:32.
Once again, prison officials refused to deviate from the execution checklist. Once again, they waited for Alpha Otis Stevens to die.
He does seem to have stopped moving entirely. We have completed our 5 minutes lapse time. Stand by for the physician's check. The superintendent at this time is in the process of briefing the witnesses that at 12:37 hours, this date, the condemned was pronounced dead.
From the time he entered the room, which I think was 12:11, it took 26 minutes.
Well, obviously something went wrong. What? I'm not sure. I don't know whether it was some failure on the part of the staff or whether it was a peculiarity about Alpha Otis Stevens. I don't know.
It was clear to everybody that that it had not gone according to the state's plan. That was not what anybody expected to see happen.
The condemned has been secured in the chair. He is not moving. He's just sitting there very passively staring out at the witnesses.
23 times the state of Georgia has sent a convicted killer to this room to end his life in this chair. Each time, for the sake of history, the state of Georgia made sure a tape recorder was rolling.
This is a recording of the execution of Ivan Ray Stanley, EF 103603.
It is not an easy task. It's probably the most difficult task that you could ask correctional staff to perform.
Listen to these 71 tapes and you begin to understand. Every state-ordered electrocution since 1983, from the first one, John Eldon Smith, to the last, David Cargill. Never heard before moments of men and women going by the book, carrying out the ultimate punishment. For each execution, the warden's executive assistant would be standing right about here in the equipment room behind the execution chamber, watching through this window. He'd be on the phone, in constant contact with officials back in Atlanta, providing a running commentary of the prisoner's final hours.
He didn't give us any problem, didn't say anything, you know. We come on out and sit down, and but he's awfully nervous.
You know what the task is. You know what the outcome's going to be.
Tony Turpin was the warden at Jackson for the last 3 executions.
You know that the crime that was committed put that person in the situation that they're in, and you deal with what comes.
The tapes also include the final words from each condemned man, sometimes recorded while they sat waiting in the holding cell next door, others from the chair itself.
The warden is asking the condemned if he would like to make a statement. The condemned spits toward the warden.
But some do talk, often with an odd mixture of resignation and relief.
Yes, I like to say I like to give my blessing to all the people that seek to save my life. And I like to curse everyone that seek to take my life. Farewell.
I love the Lord, and I hope that you all love him too, and that God takes me in his kingdom. And goodbye, Mother.
I can only say that I'm not sorry that I'm leaving this world.
I take full responsibility for the crime I committed, and I'm willing to pay the price exacted this day.
I am Jerome Bowden, and I would just like to state that my execution is about to be carried out. And I would like to thank the people at this institution for taking such good care of me in the way that they did. And I hope that by my execution being carried out, that it may bring some light to this thing that it is wrong.
He is also offered the opportunity to receive a prayer.
Into your hands I commend my soul.
A team of officers secured the condemned inmate in the chair.
The perspiration has been wiped again from the condemned's forehead, and the hood is being placed on at this time.
And then you exit the chamber and the procedures begin.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Is there any further word?
No further word. Carry out the order of the court.
Very well. On my count of 3, press your button. 1, 2, 3. The execution is now in progress. He made one jerk as the voltage initially entered his body.
What do you want people to come away with after listening to those tapes?
I think the most important thing is that this is the law of the state. It's the law of the state. And we carry out that law.
At 12:37 hours, this date, the condemned was pronounced dead.